Welcome to Biggest Geekish. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Patrick.
This is episode 189 of our show. The date is Wednesday, not Tuesday, but Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. We had to switch days because of two reasons. Randy couldn't make it, and by the time I realized I should have talked to Pat earlier in the week because I knew in time to say something. I think he told me Sunday. I said, I was kind of considering not even doing it. And then I was like, hey, we can talk about Kevin Con. Hey, let me talk to Pat.
Yeah.
Hey, he can't make it because it's, it was like, what time did I text you? It was like 1 o'clock on Tuesday or something like that.
Yeah, I was just about ready to go into work.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I would have had to talk to me yesterday.
Huh?
He would have had to talk to me yesterday.
Yeah, well. Time is meaningless when you don't have to go to work. And I'm off all week, so which is good for a lot of reasons. Hey, we got 5 folks here, the eyeball says.
Hey.
Doesn't look like we only have Larry here, but that's not an only. We have the great and honorable Larry Elliott in our chat room. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
And he says the volume is good, and it is because Joe's not experimenting with unfamiliar platforms today.
Not cheating on your streaming platform.
Correct. So, right. And bit of an announcement. Randy is taking a hiatus from the show. Oh, hey there, Rejoice, over on Twitch, in Twitch land. Thanks
Hello,
for
wife.
adding your you to the number here. He's taking care of some family stuff, and he will be back with us as soon as he can. Not today, but at some point in the future. So, with that out of the way, how was your gaming week?
My gaming week, swell. Brought a friend from work, Drew, along to Cabin Con this year. He claims to the rest of our coworkers that he had a good time, so I'll trust him there. Glad he had a good time.
Yeah.
We both got in quite a bit of gaming. I got to try out the trial run of my own role-playing game, and
It was fun.
Played a lot of Horde Wars.
Yes.
But
the Horde Wars crew was there once again. Todd and Nate were both there. They each ran some games, and we had a lot of fun.
I don't believe I saw many instances where they weren't running Horde Wars.
Well, he actually played in 2 of the games that surprisingly I ran.
Wow. Okay.
If you want to call what I did running a game.
Well, anytime you step out there and pick up the books and the GM tools, you're running a game. It can be clown shoes. It can be the worst games you've ever run. It can be done by the seat of your pants, but you're still running a game.
Mm-hmm.
And according to some people, you'll still never be as good as the great Matt Mercer.
Well, is Matt Mercer actually role-playing, tabletop role-playing games? Or is he producing entertainment content?
Option number 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's flavored as a role-playing game, but it's really just entertainment, which is fine. Hey, Darthic. Yes, so we definitely had to postpone, and today's bumping heads or, falling under the shadow of Diversity and Dragons. That's the stream, one of the streams that's going on right now.
Yeah, Diversity and Dragons going on right now.
Yeah, so we are falling under their shadow right now, so there's the chat will probably be a little quieter than normal, which is sad, but that's what we got to.
And when Diversity and Dragons spreads their wings, their shadow is long.
Very long, very long. All right, so there's really 2 topics that I'm wanting to talk about and I'm really not sure which one to do first. How about we do the well? We've got bad news and fun news. The bad news or the fun news is how great a time we had uh, at CabinCon. That's the fun news. The bad news is Big Geek Emporium. Now, Big Geek Emporium has operating at a loss for a while now, and I needed to move it to a much less expensive platform. But I really dropped the ball, and we had a catastrophic data loss that I'm going to have to work at reconstructing the data, uh, at least as far as users and vendors and sales go. What I'm not going to be able to do is replace the product files that have been lost for all time. I mean, I can't even go on to the Wayback Machine and get them because it's behind a paywall. They're all behind a paywall, so there's no way to get them even from there. So it's going to take a little time. I've already got Horde Wars stuff back up for sale. We have Tygon's Falls up for sale. I'm working on Dungeons and Delvers, getting it back and running. I thought I had it good to go, but it doesn't show up on the page there. So anyway, not great news, but it was going to not cease operations, but slowly kind of wind down from a site where there's lots of vendors to maybe just a dozen. Mainly because that's how many people really sell anything anyway, maybe less. So there's a lot of stuff on there that nobody sees or buys, and it's taking up a lot of space, relatively speaking, on a server somewhere. So it just is happening in a very uncomfortable way, and people are not happy. So hopefully,
It's hard to compete with drive-through though.
right. At the end of the day, and the funny thing is, I don't know, funny or sad, is that it was down for several days while I was trying to figure out what to do, and nobody said it. I didn't hear a peep out of anybody. So that kind of speaks to me a bit. It's sad, and it could be just everybody's like, I can't get there to Big Geek Emporium again. So, which I understand. So there's a lot of frustration with it, I'm sure. So it's going to become somewhat different. Still going to sell stuff. If someone wants to come there, it won't be a free for all where everybody and their brother can just drop whatever junk they want to there to sell, and hardly anybody sees it. It'll be more curated going forward. Once I get the user and sales data restored. So that may take a little time. So sorry about the inconvenience to everybody. It is a one-man operation, and it's not my primary competence area, if there even is one for me. So I do good at talking. That's good. Which is good because that's what we're doing today. Anyway, enough bad news. Let's move on to what the main topic of the show, which is CabinCon 18 in review.
CabinCon 18. Yeah, we're barely legal. Ah, yes, and there's the shirt.
Yeah, this is the wonderful shirt that Patrick over there made. Barely legal at 18. That's how many years we've been rolling dice together, at least the Michigan crew, having our male bonding session, male bonding annual getaway, male bonding getaway, we'll call it. So, yeah. It was a different kind of weekend.
Yeah, it was.
With the bugs. There were so many.
Oh my God.
I don't remember it being that bad ever before.
I don't ever remember. I know last couple nights, Jeff got bit up Um, I don't remember getting bit up that much, but I put a bunch of off on my skin. But the first night it was the flies. The flies. They were everywhere, and they were just all over the place and all up on your grill.
Right. Yes, Darthic says while that does suck, which he's referring to Big Geek Emporium, it could have been worse. Yes, it could have been a data breach and a lot of emails could have been stolen and stuff like that. But luckily, Big Geek Emporium does not store any, or still won't store any personal information, such as not it's still personal information, name and address, but no credit card information, no bank account information. All that's handled offsite, and there's no way they can get it from us, which is great.
Hooray!
I'm watching you over the One Magic Bean. What's
Oh,
the one-
at least
what-
we rank over Ben.
Oh, that's right. That's their show. Yeah. So, yeah, the bugs were awful. I couldn't believe it. Even the first Cabin Con, which was the worst Cabin Con, mainly because I think of who was doing the organizing of the wear. It was an awful venue. It was cheap,
yeah.
I think. Wasn't that pretty cheap? Or no, you weren't there. You weren't there.
No,
Okay.
I wasn't there. Would this have been put together by a certain game master to the stars?
Yes.
Okay.
So currently we're in actual houses. You know, there are cabins. There's the main house is an actual house and has running water, showers, all the whole thing. Electricity.
Giant bathroom.
Giant bathroom. 2 bathrooms. One giant, one partial, like half bath.
Yeah, half bath.
The first Cabin Con, we were in shacks, essentially. They had concrete floors, though you couldn't tell. I thought they were dirt. There was no power. Yeah, it was. It wasn't quite roughing it. There was it was in a campground, and there were showers and bathrooms not far away, but there was no power. So we had to bring coolers and go through ice and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there was no power at all.
I understand it's called Cabin Con, but if we're going to be doing a bunch of gaming over the weekend, I don't want to do Roughing It Con.
Right. So it was it wasn't tents, but it was only, I guess, 1 or 2 steps up from a tent. Right. So, and even then, the bugs weren't anywhere near what they are now, what they were this past weekend. It was the whole weekend. It wasn't like I thought it was when we first got there. There was a lot of dew, because sometimes bugs will hang around in the morning time when the dew is high and stuff like that. And once the dew is kind of melted away by the sun, they go away. But that didn't happen.
There was the kind of flies where it's like, did something die in the immediate vicinity and we're just catching, everything that's feeding off the corpse? It was that kind of flies.
Right. Yes, game ends at dark. Yes, I think we did. We tried to do some by firelight. Having a fire pit, and that didn't work out very well because even though you can talk, you can see some. You can't really read a character sheet very well or a game book. I think we ended up playing werewolf. We did some weird live action thing that that you just mentioned. Pushed for, but it was stupid. We never did that again.
So, if games ended at dark at Cabin Con, there would be quite a few games that never got played.
Right, and people still stayed awake, drinking and eating, and at the fire, at the campfire, doing other things, but we weren't doing any role playing. to speak of.
It was also an odd Cabin Con because a lot of people left really early,
Yes,
and
yes,
half a Cabin Con didn't even make it till Sunday.
right. And so we didn't even do our normal. Hey, Mac, welcome.
Hello, Mac.
We normally have a after action review on Sunday early, so that if we still want to play a game, which we did this week, this year, we could still do that. But we ended up not having one because even Randy had to leave. He was only there for maybe
For good
half
reason.
of it. Yeah, for good reason. He's got some issues with some family issues he had to work out, and had another fellow leave because he got really sick, and a few people only showed up. A couple people didn't show up till Friday, and a lot of folks leave Saturday night. Yeah,
staying till Sunday also meant that a lot of people didn't go to like confirmations, because I know our church's confirmation Sunday was Cabin Con Sunday.
Oh,
and I know, I'm not sure if it's Benny or Grayson, but one of Tim's boys was being confirmed on Sunday.
I guess that's good enough reason to skip out, perhaps.
Well,
Yep, Mac. That's what we all said. Although
I wouldn't shame Randy though. Randy had
not Randy.
very good reason to go.
Very good. Randy and Dave, they both had good.
Dave
got really ill. But not the confirmation thing. Not a good excuse. Even if it's your kid, you got to put that crap off. Yeah, so that's actually something that I've gotten used to, being fairly recently joining the Lutheran Church. It's still a practice that's odd to me. It's not how I got brought up, so it's just unusual from my point of view. Not bad, just different. So, yes, that being said, yes, I believe I always get them mixed up because it's the Whiskey Synod and the Misery Synod, right? Or something like that.
Wells,
Wisconsin
Evangelical Lutheran Synod. That's mine, and Tim's, and Jeff's.
Evangelical.
Wisconsin Evangelical.
Oh, Wisconsin. Yes.
Yes.
I think we're the LCMS. Well, it's Jenny's, and I joined because why not?
You're not Elka.
Yeah, no. I didn't know what that was until like a year in, and someone showed me that, and I'm like, that's not even a church.
Oh,
that's a social gathering of blue-haired idiots.
It's kind of like the Life Church, where really the entire church service is picnics and like rock concerts.
Oh, I mean, if that's all it was, it would be fine. I mean, these people though are heretics. So, and I don't like to throw that word around because people will get a little miffed, but it's true.
As far as at Cabin Con though, what did you play the most?
I split up my time this time around. Hey, Long Shot, welcome.
Long Shot.
I divided it up between Horde Wars. I played. Oh, I actually have, because I can't remember anything. I played Fallout, Blade Runner, Your Game, and I ran 2 sessions of Rifts, which was rough. Very rough.
The Palladium role-playing game system can be rough. I think
Yeah, you saw.
Hashtag facts.
Yes, very much facts.
As far as gaming went, I played a few games of Horde Wars. I wasn't a wizard this time, which is, of course, stepping outside my comfort zone. I played a Knight Warlord, which is about as fightery McFighterton as you can get.
Yes, how did that go?
I found it kind of boring.
Yeah, it's swing and miss, swing and miss. It's
Maybe it's because I'm not playing it right.
Well, I was starting to find the character I made up for our Friday, our once or twice a month Friday night streaming Horde Wars thing. I was starting to find it a little boring, but then I figured out a couple of combinations with the powers. Like, why am I not using this? Why am I not doing that? So, and we were all first level too, right?
Yeah.
So first level can be, for us who've played so many role-playing games, the starting at the zero can still be a little boring. And I know people will say the GM can make anything exciting. I'm like, really? If I went and there's some things that are boring no matter how well presented they are.
Yeah.
That's of course just my opinion. A lot of people like playing the low levels, especially the
Fifth edition.
Yeah.
5th edition.
Start out superheroes.
And I don't know how you can make starting out superheroes boring.
Yeah, probably not.
But by God, did they pull it off?
Well, it's generic, so there you go.
Yeah.
Darth says, Joe, even with it being a pain, were the games of risk fun? Once I got past a couple of sticky situations, yeah, I had some fun.
In fact, when I took my my own game out on its maiden voyage, I was at first very nervous, and it's like, oh my God, is everything going to work? Is it going to work the way I intended? No, it's not. God, how do I start this? And then it came into its own, once we were about 20 minutes in.
Right. Represent there, Mr. Darth. Anything below 5th level is kind of boring if you played it a lot. Right. I didn't feel any of that from you when you ran your game. It seemed pretty smooth to me. So, props for that.
Fallout's always fun.
I think Fallout is fun because it's quirky.
Yeah.
It's the setting is quirky. The game system isn't, I wouldn't say quirky. It's different, though.
It's different, and it can be fun. But that is true.
Because, Superman is the superest superhero of ever. And he fights things that can beat the crap out of him. So he gets challenged a lot. I mean, maybe not in the TV shows, right? Because in the TV, early, like the black and white TV shows, most of the folks he fought in there were regular people just shooting him with guns. And guns don't hurt me. So
I think Larry also has the right of it too. Depending on who your group is, they also make your games fun.
Yeah. So this you shouldn't we shouldn't lean on the system too heavily for that. If you have a good enough group, it doesn't really matter the system. But at the same time, David is correct. If the system doesn't provide its players with much of a challenge, then most of us, nerdy gamers are probably not going to be interested in it.
If you actually have to work to die, and it can't just maybe happen to you, and you actually have to pursue death, there's kind of a fundamental breakdown in the game.
Right. So, Traveler or Classic Cthulhu. I'd have to actually get more than that start. I guess it was. I don't think they call it a starter set, but they had a starter version of Traveler. It was very bare bones.
I don't know.
I struggled with that one.
I'd be willing to run Cthulhu if it would get me a surf and turf dinner.
Surf and turf is good stuff. So I had fun at all my games that I played in. Running riffs was kind of was a big challenge. Hold on a second. My ugly closet was open. So yeah. Go ahead.
I think the only thing that kind of disappointed at least a couple of us at Cabin Con was there have been some instances where you'll go up and write your game on the board, and then you already have all 5 or 6 of your slots filled, so you just write down people's names, and some of us will look on like, what the hell? You weren't offering that to everybody. You kind of already got your, why bother writing it on the board? And I know I was disappointed by that. Drew was disappointed by that because he really wanted to play 13th Age. But I think it's kind of always been a problem at Cabin Con is sometimes you already have a group in mind to play, and all of a sudden you just ask the people you want to play with you, and then that's when Cabin Con starts getting a little clicky. And that's the one if there was one criticism I would have about Cabin Con is there have been some years where it can get a little clicky. I remember my least favorite Cabin Con was, I think, 12. And that's when we had the most people there. Because I found that the more people were there, the more isolated I felt. And people got into all sorts of groups, and I'm kind of sitting at the lake house going, what's going on? Do we have any? Nope, no games.
I think that might have been also one where I missed out on a game because I think we were still trying to have only like a half hour between slots. And I'm like, I'm not going to rush. I'm on vacation. I'm not going to rush to eat. I'm going to go down. I'm going to eat, and I'm going to take as long as I want to eat, which isn't that long, but a half hour to have to prepare and eat and try to get back in time to either sign up for a game or jump into a game or whatever. Sometimes you didn't make it.
Proper grilling takes time.
Yes.
Proper grilling takes time.
Well, this year I pre-cooked most of the stuff. I just had to heat it up. I didn't have to do any cooking, I just had to heat that up to my breakfast burritos. Everything was heat up, so it didn't take long.
I have a bunch of chili eating up on.
Yeah. That was good chili.
It was good chili, but I made way too much of it, apparently.
Well, I think everybody brought a whole troop's worth of, well, not everybody. There were about 5 or 6 different dishes that were large enough for everybody to get, just about everybody to get a sampling of. So there was way more food for Friday night than we needed. So I had to bring back a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, when signing up for like games and stuff, when I put the 4 spots open for my game, I did have a type of player in mind to try to come play the game, and it just happened to be the people who signed up were exactly the type of people I was looking for. People who could dig into the mechanics of the game and give me feedback.
Right.
I mean,
So
if it was some of our casuals who wouldn't be able to, who would just be asking all the time, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do?
Right.
And slowing the game down to a crawl. It's like, it's not like I don't want to play with anybody there.
Right.
But I was looking for a specific type of player that could give me feedback.
Right. And I don't disparage anybody at Cabin Con for having their own crew in their game. I know it's going to disappoint somebody if that particular game is something they haven't played and they're like, hey, maybe I can play in this. But I know the 13th Age game, he wanted people who had been in it before. In that scenario before. Although we did have one person that was an add-on that I don't think he might have, because he's been to a couple of Cabin Cons, so he might have been in that scenario last time. I can barely remember the last one from that series.
I also sometimes go up to Cabin Con with the intention of gaming with some specific people I haven't gamed with in like forever. And sometimes I can't get around to that.
Right. It requires in our setup, since we don't like set up things in advance and put out spreadsheets online for people to fill out or whatever. It is incumbent on everybody, if they want, to go up to each other and say, hey, let's get in a game together, or I'm going to run this game and I want you to play in it. So yeah, we have to do that or we miss out. I've missed out because I haven't done that. I haven't done that a lot. I usually just mosey around, and I got lucky this particular Cabin Con and was able to get into some really fun games. A lot of times, I mean, they're all fun, but a lot of times I end up missing out on a game or two because I'm not in super duper go look at the board mode first thing in the morning. I'm like, I don't have to get out of bed. I'm just going to stay here for a little while. So, and that's a function of me being a little older, and I'm not willing to rush around at this point.
I've noticed the tradition of having the late night after midnight games has pretty much gone to the curb.
I could maybe play in one. So it would be more likely for me to hope that some young person is going to run a late game that I can just cruise in. But I can never run a game after midnight.
I mean, not considering some of our newbies like Nick or Drew, I'm even considered one of the younger Cabin Con crew, and I'm 43.
Right. I am 57. And 7, 8 o'clock, I'm ready to kind of pack it in. Not necessarily sleep, but just not think a whole lot. I can play later, but running is that late is just not for me at this point. Perhaps if I was in a little bit better physical shape, I could do it. But
I know I need to get in much better physical shape before I do that. Less round of a shape.
Right, and Larry hit it on the head too. I could possibly play in a midnight game, though that next morning not likely making it. Right, so that's something I think Randy and I discussed one year or maybe 2 years in a row, and Philip too, where we'd be like, I can't play next morning because I'm going to be just dead. I can't do that. So you play the same amount of games. You're not getting any extra in. I mean, not at our age. And you just feel worse. So you might as well just pack it in and go to bed, or at least, what we Saturday night, sometimes Friday night too, we have a bonfire, and Saturday night is usually the night to do it. and sit around the bonfire,
also
tell
the night
jokes, tease each other. A lot of people get super drunk.
Tease. That's one way to put it.
That's one way to put it. Well, some people get really drunk, and it's fun to be a watcher of people getting drunk. As someone who I don't enjoy the process, so I get to watch everybody else, and that's my entertainment because it's often very funny.
Apparently, Phil likes me better drunk.
Oh yeah, he gets real friendly when he gets drunk.
And Phil gets absolutely hammered.
Yeah. I mean, the one, he got pretty. That wasn't his worst though. This past Cabin Con, I don't think that was his worst.
No. And as far as the teasing each other around the campfire, we at least, I think everybody knows where the belt lines are, and to not kick below them.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think it's taken a little bit to figure that out because we're a fairly large group of folks.
Yeah.
Right. But for some people, they go at each other good-naturedly, but way below the belt. But they single each other out. They don't really go after other people. Like Nick, he really goes after Philip, but he doesn't care, and it's fun to watch.
He's his nephew, so
yeah. So it's fun to watch.
As far as I'm concerned, you can make fun of me all you want. Just leave my wife out of it.
Right. Yeah. Let's not talk about each other's wives. It's no good. No good.
Yeah, that mistake was only made once.
Right. Darth says, I'm with you, Joe. I have drank since 94. Watching is way more fun than getting drunk. Oh, yeah. You did that? That's funny. I asked you if you were drunk, and you were all, shh, don't tell. As if we can't tell. You're not, and as obvious a drunk as some other folks are,
though. That night, I was 3/4 of a bottle of mead and a full 4 fingers of scotch.
Oh, wow. Hey, if I had known you had mead, I might have begged a glass.
I gave some to Drew. I gave some to Drew. He took a swig of it, and he says, "Oh my God, this is candy." Because with mead, you can't taste the alcohol.
Well, that's what I've heard. It's supposed to taste a little better than beer. Here's doggy. I wonder if
very sweet.
Uh-oh. Up.
I'll be on cam.
No, he's not. He's not
going to. He doesn't understand.
Oh, he did downstairs.
Oh, he did?
He got up a little bit, yeah. Alrighty. That's cool, though. I shall go jump in.
Puppy love.
Yeah, I will do that. Anyway, yeah, so riffs should not be played unprepared. Now, I wasn't unprepared.
Not.
But I was probably less prepared. No, I was definitely less prepared than I should have been. So, I've played riffs a couple times. I've had the core rule book, the older version, for a long time, and I've flipped through it here and there. But you don't know how unorganized that book is until you try to DM from that book. Either version, regular or ultimate, and try to find something very specific. So I gave up and just started saying, we'll just do this. We'll just do this. And then there were some people who looked for me, which was helpful.
I think that's a common complaint among everybody who reads a Palladium book, is that it's hard to find anything.
Darth says, I don't know how you can't taste the alcohol in mead. he can smell it apparently 10 feet away, which is commendable.
You have a very sensitive nose for alcohol.
It probably just depends on. I guess you can you make mead of various strengths, or is
You
it
can,
fairly specific?
Like the Camelot mead that I was drinking, it's sweet to the point where, like Drew said, it's like drinking candy. Whereas like Viking Blood,
Mm-hmm.
that one's a wee bit spicier. You can actually taste the alcohol in that one.
Well, I don't like beer because, generally speaking, the hops make it very bitter. To my taste, I'm kind of
Yeah.
sensitive to the bitter, I believe, because I don't like tea, coffee, and beer, all for the same reason: the bitterness.
I like a
And
good Angry
mead-
Orchard, though.
Huh?
I like a good Angry Orchard, though. That's an apple beer.
Yeah.
It's not quite cider, but then again, I can't turn down a good woodchuck either.
Well, if it's bitter at all, I won't like it. So, not that I need it to be super sweet, but
The
I just taste it really well.
the woodchuck crisp isn't really that bitter. The Granny Smith one is kind of, though.
Yeah. Well,
Don't-
Granny Smith is sour
Don't
anyway.
care. Yeah.
Granny
don't
Smith
care.
apples are a bit sour. Yeah. So, yes, this has been my point since I was a young lad. Ale and beer is usually an acquired taste. And my first question is, why would you drink something that you don't like, that doesn't taste good to you, long enough until it does? And everyone says the same thing: for the effect. I just don't like it. I just don't like the effect enough.
Well, I kind of feel the same way about coffee. I think coffee is one of the most deceptive drinks in the world because I think it smells divine, but tastes like ass.
Coffee.
Yes.
What was it? Yes, coffee smells awesome.
Yeah.
I wish it tasted exactly the way it smelled. I would
Yes.
probably die of caffeine overdose.
It's like,
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's the bitter, because I don't think you can smell bitter. You can sure taste it, but it doesn't come across your nose very, very, very well. According to Mac, oatmeal, vanilla cream, and chocolate stouts are good.
sounds like a breakfast.
Well, I've heard of some people calling that stuff like dessert beer. Coffee is amazing after I dump a ton of coconut creamer in it. LOL. Yeah, I was getting ready to say you're a liar. That's another acquired taste. I don't care what anybody says. You probably drink enough that you get accustomed to the bitter part, so then your palate ignores it to a certain degree, so that you can detect the other notes that people are always talking about in coffee, the nutty and all this other stuff that higher end coffees purport to have. I may just have an underdeveloped palate, which is fine with me. Anyway, we're talking about riffs.
Yes.
So do not go unprepared or even underprepared. Someone up here said to tab your book. Yes, definitely.
Good
Especially when there's contradictory text in there. If you don't know that in advance and you have just one more call you have to make, it can be a little frustrating. Like in this section, it says this much damage, and in that section, it's the same thing says different kind of damage.
What kind of characters did you have?
We had a juicer, a crazy, a glitter boy. Though I think that I'm not sure if I handled it correctly with the glitter boy. I just said he can shoot his boom gun every action. That might not be the case, because it's not like the character destroyed a target every action. It usually took two, because some of the things they were fighting had 250 mega damage, and he couldn't. I I think he could potentially, I don't know, he couldn't do that in one shot, but he could get close. So 2 shots for the Samus to take a Samus out. But Juicer, Crazy, Glitter Boy, Psi Operator, and a Cyber Knight.
I was gonna say half your party is batshit crazy.
And actually, we had 2 Psi Operators because we had an extra person, and I just made a copy of the Psi Operator because I didn't want to make a copy of the Glitter Boy. I thought that was probably a bad idea.
No ley line walkers?
I was trying to make one up. I was furiously trying to get it done. And I flat ran out of time. I would have had one. I rolled all the spells randomly. And I had the Rift's Book of Magic. I think that's what it's called. Yes, Rift's Book of Magic. And I just rolled them randomly out of that for all the levels he could have. And I have no idea if it was a good group of spells or not.
Legion of Myth, howdy.
Hey. Legion of Myth, I ran 2 sessions of Rifts over the weekend. And it was rough. So, yeah, I just couldn't get it done in time. So I ended up just having the extra person play a duplicate character. So 2 Psi Operators. And how they started was in suppression collars with no powers in prison, and they had to escape. So what I ended up doing was I didn't figure out a way for them to escape and hope that they figured it out or leave them clues. I just said, this is your situation. And they came up with a good maneuver. So they had electrified fence, and they decided they were going to try to short out their suppression collars by touching the fence without dying in the process. So 2 of them did that, and it ended up working out for them. One of them was a Psi Operator that was able to, and I didn't try to look this up because I didn't know if I was going to have time to, but they have an ability to control electronic devices, and it costs an amount of ISP. And I have the thought, and I still haven't looked, to see if that is 1 charge of ISP per item that they control, or if because it says it lasts a duration, or if they can target multiple over the course of that duration, like 1 each action. So I didn't look that up. I have it was probably going to end up being my call anyway, so I just let him do it. And he ended up just once he was free after taking a jolt from the electrified fence, he ended up unlocking everybody's collars, and then they didn't have any gear, so they had to fight their way out of a prison filled with admittedly low-level coalition guards, and they killed them all, which is great because the coalition are the bad guys. And they ended up finding their stuff. It was stashed somewhere, and basically having the Glitter Boy, once he got into his armor, just destroy the prison. And of course, a lot of other people that were in the same circumstances got away as well, which worked out good. And then I had them on a Wild Goose Chase. It's a module you can download for free. It worked out pretty good. They fought some coalition folks. They avoided these giant bugs, which was cool. I did. Yeah, that one. They avoided those guys, but ended up. I was trying to get them caught in between them, so they had to fight both at the same time. But they ended up pulling a move and were able to just fight off the coalition states folks. So I got used to. I did the round robin because everybody has multiple actions, and I did the round robin. Everybody gets an action, then everybody gets an action until everybody's done. The Cyber Knight is pretty boss. It's a really cool, interesting character. OCC. Like the Glitter Boy, you might think that they're a little OP because if someone is targeting them and they're using targeting equipment, electronic targeting equipment, it just fails and they lose a bunch of actions. So most of the folks that they were going against had 2 or 4 actions, and they just lost a bunch of stuff.
Cyber Knights are just synthetic Jedi.
Right. So they had suppression collars that I didn't really stat up. So I just did it on the fly. They had exposed wires that they couldn't really touch, but it just kept them from using psionics and magic and interfered with cybernetics. So they were basically just all normal folk. So there's electric fence, and this is a old prison, minimum security prison that the coalition states troop repurposed for captured not coalition people to be transported, to be tortured and questioned and disposed of in another location. So this is a waypoint. So I just decided a bunch of things on the fly and said, if they can get out of this, they can get out of this. I wasn't really trying really hard to contain them too long, just long enough so that we can get used to turn order and some of the rules, because I didn't know them very well. And it worked out pretty good. By halfway through the first combat, I think that I had a good handle on the iteration through the turns. None of us really knew any of the characters' powers very well because we're all novices at the game. So there were a lot of questions, and I really just tried to get us going. Just what does it say on your sheet? We'll do that. If they had some details that were maybe not clear, I just said, let's do it this way. Or some folks volunteered to look things up while I was going around the table, which helped some. Except for the times when they couldn't find stuff because, of course, it's risks and it's hard to find stuff.
I think some of the attacks per round that you get, I think some of them are also supposed to be used for defense.
Right. So we were doing that. So some people had auto dodge, which is cool, which I still think we might have done incorrectly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you get. I think the one guy was explaining it so that with an auto dodge, you can only auto dodge up to so many attackers. But I don't know if it's every iteration through. I think it might be still limited, but we just whirled with it. So I figure once I've done it a few times, then I'll know all these edge cases. And someone was telling me ranged combat is awfully unfun, but auto dodge has no limits. Okay, so according to Legion of Myth, and he's played it a lot, so I'll take his word for it. Oh. He
would know.
So now, if you get superpowers for hitting an electric fence, I think we all would. That would work. But yeah, so we ran it. I think by the end of the second session, I really figured out that I needed to be more prepared. And I think if I would have printed out, and I had access to these, I could have printed out some cheat sheets, a combat order sheet, all this stuff I could have had printed out, but didn't. I figured it. I don't know why I thought I would be able to find it easily.
You never find anything easily.
Right. Right. That is true. If it was, I think organized. So I think everybody would like it a lot better if it was better organized, even if the rules just stayed the same. Even the folks who say, I don't like the rules, but I think they don't like the rules because it's hard to put it all together. I also should have checked perhaps a little more closely the pre-gens, because there was something just not quite right about how they were set up. But they ended up working out okay, I guess.
I am not sure what it is about the concept of pre-gens for any role-playing game company out there who makes pre-gens for their games, but I've always found that the pre-gens are always messed up.
Right.
They either skirt a rule or something's not written down properly. It's like, do I really use this power every freaking round and it does like tons of damage? Why would you do anything else?
Right. Now, Rift's Palladium has a Rift's character generator, I think is what it is, over on DriveThruRPG, and I may spring for it, because I was like, I could get this, but I didn't want to pay for anything because I'm cheap. But and it's not that expensive. I think it's only $6. But it would have saved me so much time. I probably would have ended up being able to make all the characters, and they would have probably had better character sheets. So. Patrick has played 1E Earthdawn. Oh, those were the pre-gens, huh? Pre-gens had too many points. 73 points instead of 66. Did it make that much of a difference? 7 points? Do you think?
That kind of a point disparity. You get a couple extra of steps in there.
Oh, that can make a difference. Yeah.
Those can add
dice steps.
Yeah.
And I think one other thing I figured out quickly was not to be too much of a stickler. One fellow wanted to pull a move that wasn't really technically valid, I guess.
Hey, buddy.
But I was like, whatever. I'm not going to have an argument. Let's just have some fun and let it go. But then everybody wanted to pull a move similarly, and I said, okay, whatever. Go ahead. We're going to go around like this one time, then we're done. Going back to the regular actions, but it worked out pretty good. It was fun. So you had your own game you've been working on.
Yep.
And I thought it was pretty well done. I'm usually not one for special dice, but I think even if we had just plain D6s, you could have just had a little chart that told you what they did.
Yeah.
And that would work out pretty well.
I think the specialist of the special dice would probably be the damage dice or the effect dice, because those are borrowed almost straight from Fallout / Conan, Modiphius's.
That's their trademark kind of deal.
I don't know if they're like trademark dice. I don't know if you can trademark dice.
Well, I mean, figuratively
speaking.
Figuratively speaking, that's the thing that they do in their games.
There is one very, very big difference between the dice for my game and the dice for Modiphius's games.
Mm-hmm.
Mine don't have blank sides.
Right.
When it says you do like 5 dice of damage, at the very bare minimum, you're going to do 5 points of damage.
Right. When you hit, you should hit.
Because I watched Larry had a Fallout game running on Friday night, where Trent had like a weapon that gave him 7 damage dice. Rolled all 7 damage dice. 1 point of damage. Because the 6 of the other sides were blank. And it's like, this is ridiculous.
And then the person he was shooting probably had some kind of DR, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he did no damage to them. Awesome.
Yeah. And then
you could do 21 points of damage in bunches of effects. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. For Fallout's dice, can you do 3 points of damage with one die? Or is it just 2 or effect? It's blank, 2, blank 1, 2 effect.
There's a 1 side, a 2 side, and then 2 effect sides, and the effect is 1 plus whatever weapon qualities or effects you have on for the damage dice.
Right.
And mine was significantly toned up.
Right.
Which is why you guys also had more hit points than usual starting characters would have. I also
still didn't have a lot. I mean, my character didn't have a lot, but I played the wizard.
Yeah,
I think he had 16 hit points. And when we were in that one fight with the assassins, I was like, I'm going to die, because they were doing really a lot of damage. I got knocked down to, I think, 1 hit point, and forgot to do your wound thing.
It didn't help that I had those effects do like bleed damage and have them stack bleed damage like that.
Nate's character, I mean, he skin of his teeth, I think, survived that.
Yeah. And I really do like how I made the Berserker's Rage mechanic, where in standard D&D it's just like, I choose to rage, I get bonuses. And here it's like you either have to spend willpower to force yourself into a rage, or you get a point of rage every time you get hit in combat.
Right. You kind of walk a knife's edge there when you're in rage.
Yes.
A little bit of rage is good, but
the more the more stacks of rage you build up, you get higher damage resistance, you get a better 2-hit, you get more damage. But at some point you got to start making resolve checks to not further rage, because once you reach a rage of 5, you don't have control of your character anymore. You just hit things indiscriminately until somebody calms your ass down.
Right.
And he almost did it.
He
almost did it. Rage 5. And he, like, when the assassins were taken care of, he like ran out of the room and just started.
We backed up.
Things.
We did the whole Three Stooges thing where we just went, get away. Right. Get away from the ragey person.
I also like how you use the firebolt spell to just light up one of that first assassin like a Christmas tree.
In the face.
Yes, in the face.
I rolled really well.
Say, oh, look at all those stacks of flaming. Oh, those can go on for a while. She's gonna be a crispy critter.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things with dice like that, and when you have the variable damage, that I could have very easily just got a bunch of 1s, and she would have been, oh, this hurts a little bit, death to wizard, because she hit me once. It wasn't 1 hit point. I had 5. And you have some sort of mechanic that I only peripherally caught with some of the other 2 characters who ended up using it, where I kind of ignored it. I'm like, oh, what's this wound thing? So I guess in this system, it's a threshold. You take that much damage, and then
if you take X amount of damage, you gain a wound. Wounds are the things that, like, oh, you get too many of these and you will actually die.
Right. But do they impose penalties?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you have a death spiral, which some people bemoan, but death, it can be a spiral. You start hurting, you find things difficult to do.
There's also kind of a wide margin for success too.
Right.
I have all rolls do like the basic, like D12. I mean, it only has sides 1 through 10, but then there's like the spirit rune is like the good side of the die, counts as a 10, gives you an action point, and you can do with that what you will. And then there's the Eye of Morgannon, which imposes some sort of complication, and if you get the Eye of Morgannon and half of your dice end up as like 1s, then that's when the really bad stuff happens. I remember once you cast like the light spell,
Yeah.
and you happen to roll the Eye of Morgannon,
Mm-hmm.
and the globe of daylight bursts in your face and blinds you all for just a moment, and then you get that flash of all those ghosts around you, and drove a couple of you a little bit nutty.
Well, I can see if that happens repeatedly through a game, a session, you might stack effects. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we all were rolling Morgana, um, you know, all the time, you could have had that be some kind of ongoing nightmarish thing that is in our mind, and we may have gotten to the point where we couldn't separate that from what was really going on. But
Yeah.
luckily,
you guys had enough on your plate.
yeah, we did. Yeah, I found that very fun. So hopefully, uh, maybe you can win the lottery, quit your job, and just work on that. I look forward to seeing it more fully developed, and then perhaps on Big Geek Emporium at some point.
If I write prolifically enough, maybe I could have some sort of pamphlet to hand out at Big GeekCon.
That'd be great. Oh yeah, someone mentioned Earth Dawn. We all forgot. Drink. All right. So yeah, hopefully that becomes more than just running at Cabin Con and Be Geek Con. Hopefully,
I do
you
too.
need more play testing, since I live almost walking distance from your house.
Yeah, you live like what 4 blocks away.
Yeah, you have a play tester.
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, should be able to work something out. We're finally getting some stuff organized in the house, so maybe we can have you guys over. We have a bit more. We have a bit more space for folks in a bigger dining table, so we can, as long as we don't have a bunch of other nonsense on it. I mean, not nonsense, because this is some of my stuff, some of my wife's stuff. It's just not dining table stuff. So, I mean, you know how it can be. Every horizontal surface becomes storage area if you're not careful.
Yeah, currently my house.
Yeah. So if we can get that area straightened out, we can actually eat dinner at the dining table and have folks over, maybe do some gaming at the house. That would be awesome.
A wife who happens to be listening right now. We have some stuff to do this weekend.
I get that. All right. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say about Cabin Con or your game? Do you have a name for it yet?
Age of Mages.
Age of Mages, that's right. So it's Age of Mages. Is that kind of a different take on Ars Magica?
Kind of. It is going to be a magic heavy game,
mm-hmm.
But as you've seen, and the way the initiative works in my game, magic can take a long time to get going, but it's really powerful.
Right. So if the intention is for, I mean, I don't think my character was super powerful, but he was useful and maybe a little bit squishy at the same time. A wee bit squishy, but not like a cat could come up to him and scratch him on him and then scratch his face and kill him in one hit.
Like Mac Thompson, the second one, Age of, and David Guil, because I'm not what's his face from the MCDM role playing game.
MCD. Whatever.
Matt Colville,
right. Was kind of thinking pointy hats.
I do favor me the pointy hats.
Yes, Larry, Cabin Con was relaxing and was a needed distraction. I agree.
100%.
Right.
100%.
We are nearly at Cabin Con 20, and we still haven't come up with a good way to do 20 any different than the other ones.
Well, CabinCon 19's tagline is going to be, "Now we're a critical threat."
Critical threat. Yeah. So, from David Quill, Patrick, will pointy hats have any mechanical impact in your game?
I'm not telling.
I would imagine so. Pat is a very traditional wizard, tropey type of dude, which is cool. If there were witches, they'd be riding brooms and having cat
I do.
things.
I do loves me my
Familiars.
cat.
You do. And no, it probably will not be like inspiration points. It will be more like, hey, you want another spell? Or let's make this spell better, or something along those lines. It'll be very true.
Because your mental energy is, you have a couple extra willpower points.
Yeah.
Whilst you wear. Actually, the ability is called Arcane Accoutrements. Or no, Arcane Accoutrements.
Oh.
And they actually give you bonuses for wearing stereotypical like wizard gear.
Right. You know, I'm mostly traditional, but I'm not a big fan of wearing the giant pointy hat thing. And robes are just, you wear that after you get out of the shower if you're in a porn movie. You don't, I mean, I understand at some point in the past robes were a big thing, but they just seem.
File novels actually explained why wizards wear robes.
Who does? What does?
I think the Dresden Files actually had an explanation for why wizards wear robes.
Right.
It's something as simple as robes are warm.
They're warm.
Our towers are kind of cold.
Well, sure, you can wear a blanket, but yeah, not while adventuring. They're not convenient. I can't imagine them being very practical. That you'll get overly hot. They would be clumsy to do any kind of maneuvering or anything like that. I think that folks in the early days of D&D, they were like, well, you have all these pockets you can put all your spell components in and stuff like that. And I'm like, you can just have a belt pouch and have that. It's easier. But because Dresden Files wizards tend to fry electronics.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so they need them because they're warm. Yeah. They can't have heaters in their house because of that. Well, if you have to go anywhere near your thermostat or the pilot light on even one of the most oldest furnaces, yeah, you just make it break down. Yep. Series of belt pouches. That's all you need.
Scroll bandolier.
Bandolier. Actually, yeah. Unless you're in Horde Wars, you'll need a bunch of Sherpas to carry your scrolls.
Shots fired.
Yeah. But it's true. That's what I got. And he was like, yeah, that's what you need to do. Or a horse, a wagon, and your potions. Because potions and scrolls
spell scrolls must be like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right. So if you look up traditional
papyrus rolls.
Yeah. If you look up scrolls in the real world, they can be ginormous. Really big. But, yeah.
Nope. Scrolls in my world are just simple sheets of vellum.
Yeah. Well, I get that they're with the scale of Horde Wars, every scroll is very powerful because it gives anybody a chance to use a magic spell. But you have to make a roll. I think you might have to have the magic skill, but you can vastly increase your repertoire, and it takes up a lot of space because it's very useful. So, half a bedroll, not a full bedroll. Captain Birdseye 4. Welcome.
What house did the Sorting Hat put Patrick in? If we're talking like doing like the Harry Potter quizzes, I seem to always get Ravenclaw, which appropriate. But I get that joke every time we go to Gen Con because we have Brimley, our mascot, who's a talking wizard hat. Everybody comes by and goes, "Hey, it's the Sorting Hat." It's like, no, it isn't. That would be copyright infringement.
It would be. Yours is intellectually distinct.
Yes.
Larry says they have saved our group more than once, referring to scrolls, and you are correct. In fact, they've provided a lot of transport too, because in Horde Wars you can get a scroll that opens a gate. You can walk through to a location that the caster has been and stuff like that. So they can be pretty powerful. All right. So I am getting summoned by Elizabeth here, if you can't hear her squeaking.
Morton Kanan is kind of begging for my attention right now, too.
Well, she needs to go outside and relieve herself, so I need to help her with that. So if with that, if you don't have anything further, I think we can put a pin in this one. What do you think? Sound good?
I think now is a good time.
All righty. Well, the links for this show and for ways that you can support us will be in the show notes. We don't have anything to put in it for extra information except for Big Geek Con, which will be happening in September, as we have been saying each episode since we announced the dates, September 20th to 22nd. $30, cheap for 3 days of gaming.
It's almost a Cabin Con.
Almost, except a lot less expensive. Well, that doesn't include accommodations, and if you want to stay in a hotel, there's no way you're going to get the deal that we did.
No.
Are continuing to get. Anyway, we are going to say that is it. This is Joe.
And this is Patrick.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.